So I hope you enjoyed your coffee break. Please note that that you can visit the marketplace during the 1-hour lunch break, which is coming up at noon. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Coralie Martin. Coralie is an officer employer relations for the Chartered Professional Accountants of Alberta, CPA, who is representing CPA today as our corporate deluxe sponsor for the conference. After a brief video, Coralie will then tell us a little bit more about CPA and will introduce our next session. Coralie.
Good morning. There we are. I want to say first thank you to the Edmonton and Calgary Region Immigrant Employment Councils for hosting such a great conference. And thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Coralie Martin, and I am an Employer Relations Officer with CPA Alberta. CPA Alberta regulates the CPA profession here in Alberta. We represent over 30,000 chartered professional accountants across the province. CPA Alberta is proud to sponsor the Alberta Global Talent Conference this year. And we are also proud to be an organization that encourages and fosters diversity and inclusion within the CPA profession. Many internationally trained professionals have obtained their CPA designation after arriving in Canada and are now enjoying the benefits that come with having it. We would be delighted to tell you more about these benefits, and if you would like more information about them, the CPA designation, be sure to visit our CPA Alberta booth at the conference today. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the panelists for the Immigrant Leader, Building Successes and Overcoming Challenges. Alexandria is the Relationship Manager for Nonprofit Organizations at RBC. Nalam works as a Government Services Professional for the Government of Canada. And Cindy is the Director of Edmonton Police Services' newly created Procurement and Contract Services branch. I'd like to say thank you, enjoy the panel and the rest of the conference.
Yeah. Thank you. So my name is Javier Vincem. I'm also a career and diversity advisor with CPA Alberta. Booth's right there. We're sponsoring today. Thank you for inviting us. I believe you're all in the correct order. Yes. So we need you in this correct order for your slides. I believe all the presenters have a prepared slide deck, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end if that works for everybody. So I'm assuming we'll start with you, Alexandria. I don't know if you have her slide program queued up. Okay, so I presume you come speak to that? Okay, thank you so much. Save your spot.
Well, Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Eric, for this great opportunity to be here with all of you today. I am very delighted to be here. Usually when I'm called upon to speak to my fellow immigrants, I usually start with one thing. I usually start with applauding my fellow immigrants because it's not an easy accomplishment to leave the comfort of your homes, to migrate to a new place, now call that place home. You've taken the risk. It is a great amount of courage and inspiration. And to me, those are key elements of a leader. So kudos to Eric for choosing the theme of this year's conference as immigrant leader, because that is who you are. So please give yourself a round of applause. You've done it, and you're going to do even better. So without further ado, let's get to, I'll take you through my own newcomer journey in line with this session's topic, building successes, overcoming challenges. And I know most of you will resonate with this because we've all walked this path. In 2011, my husband migrated to Canada for his master's, precisely Montreal, Quebec. And a year later, I joined him with our 3 kids. And having done banking in Nigeria for 8 years, that was the only career I knew. But you know what? Arriving in Montreal, I wasn't sure, like most of you in this room, where do I start from? How do I get back into the career that I know best? What certifications, what exams to write? Who do I talk to? That was 2012. I'm sure things are a lot better now. You walk straight in and you've got Eric, you've got EMCN. I didn't know any better then, wasn't sure how. I remember going to one of the bank branches around the apartment where we're living at that time, and when I mentioned this is what I want, they said, do you speak French? I said no, and they said, you need to be bilingual to be working here. So, you know what? Long story short, I walked away, but the quest to get back to my career didn't cease. Like one of the speakers said, don't lose sight of that. I've always believed as an immigrant to be open, to be honest, and to be professional in making those impactful connections. Those are very key. One of the days I was heading to the daycare to pick our kids, I met a gentleman at the bus stop, and we were both headed to the same location, to the same daycare to pick our kids. So again, networking. You don't need to wait for that fancy environment and dress fancy. I want to go network today. No. There are informal and formal ways to network. So there and then, we started talking, and I mentioned we just arrived, and I'm a banker back home and looking to get back to my career, not sure where to start from. And he said, neither do I. I don't have much knowledge about banking, but guess what? I know about a debt collection agency, and they're looking for call center job. There's opportunity for call center positions. That was okay for me, like calling people and planning their debt, the way to their payment plan. I was like, yeah, I can do that. So he gave me the direction, and I think the following day I set out. And getting there, I was fortunate to secure an interview date. So I had my date, was excited, waiting for when it's going to happen. And within the same time, my husband's classmate then he was in Montreal, Concordia University. So his classmate invited us to a family Christmas party at his church. So remember here now, we're talking about 2 professionals that left their jobs back home. Family of 2-income household and with 2 cars. And here we are, no cars yet. Guess what? We had a bicycle, not a new bicycle, hand-me-down from my husband's classmates then in school who heard the wife and kids are here. That bicycle was my life, I tell you. It was my jet. I was flying it everywhere, like for every grocery errand, every errand you can think of. That was what I used for my 1 year in Montreal, gladly and proudly. So that night for that Christmas party, it was tough. It was a night I will never forget. Very cold in that train station. Imagine holding your kids, all just like forming a circle, just to keep them, shield them from cold, waiting for trains and trains. Guess that Christmas party wasn't just the aim. The aim is, as an immigrant, remember that networking, making those great connections. It could happen anywhere. So that was what we had in the back of our minds, and we're like, we're going to get there to that party. And I could remember shedding tears, my husband and I, shedding tears at the train station where the cold became too much, right? Waiting for the turns of trains and connections. Long story short, we got to that party. It was amazing. Built great network, built great connection. Little did I know that that night was going to have a foundation for me to get in my first job in Canada. Few days after that party was my interview date at the debt collection agency. Getting to that company, walking into my interview room, guess who I met sitting there as my interviewer? One of the pastors at the Christmas party a few nights ago. I'm like, Pastor George, yes, Alexandria, how are you? And the rest is history. I got the job. So that was my first job in Canada. And it didn't end there. The quest was still on. When my husband graduated, we knew that we needed to get back to, when I say back to our originally planned destination, most of you will be wondering, what does she mean? Yeah, from Nigeria. We didn't have French. What were you doing in Quebec for the first place? No, it was the height of newcomers' naivety. You'll get to that story some other day. It's a long story. That detour, but it was an important detour. Like every disappointment is a blessing in disguise. So anyway, back to our story. We needed to get back to Edmonton, Alberta, which was our originally intended location. So networking in the workplace. I started talking to my colleagues at the call center. Hey, you know what? My family, we're moving to Edmonton very soon. And you know what? My husband just graduated. He's an engineer. Let's go where we can speak English and get a job. So I didn't know that the networking was happening right there, and impactful connection happened. One of the ladies said to me, oh, my husband works in Fort McMurray in Alberta, and I've been meaning to go join him soon. So I've been really searching around for jobs, and I saw RBC Royal Bank. They have a big career fair coming up sometime around when you'll be arriving Edmonton. So go check it out. That sounded like music to my ears. I've been looking for a way back to the banking career. So I jotted that down, and when we arrived here, September 2013, worst winter ever. The RBC Career Fair was a few months after that, and that fateful morning, my husband left in the morning to go look for work. And our first son was the only one old enough to go to elementary school. And look at me at home with two little ones, no much savings at that time to put them in the daycare. And no family, no friends, just like most of us when we just arrived. And I said to myself, Alexandria, you are going to attend this career fair with two kids. What will be the worst case scenario? You're going to get bounced at the door, but that will not end my life. So at least you would have tried, right? That was me speaking to myself. And prepared the kids that morning. Had my little baby, barely 2 years old, put her in the stroller, and then the other one, 4-year son. And we're going to make it to the bus stop. The inches of snow that day outside was unbelievable. My stroller couldn't move. I don't know. I can see some mothers nodding here. You understand that? I had to lift the stroller up with my baby in it and run into the bus stop, and the little one tagging along. We made it to the branch. The young man at the door looked at me and looked at the kids and said, you know what, Alexandria? We have so many people here today. Do you mind if RBC calls you back next time when we have a career fair? You understand what he's talking about? And you understand that it's not his fault? It's bizarre. Coming for an interview with two kids. No, like, it's insane. I knew it's not his fault. This is wrong. But I politely, remember what I said, be honest, be open, make that connection. I looked at him, I saw a name tag. That was very good. I called him by his name and said, I am very sorry. This is bizarre. To be here with kids for a career fair, I'm a newcomer. No option. No family, no friends, no money to put them in the daycare. And I need this job. He looked at me and said, okay, if you insist. So he opened the door for me, and I pushed my baby and got the other little one, got into the banking hall, was settling them by the corner of the banking hall, and I saw really others waiting for their turn to be called. An elderly woman walked with a paper in her hand, walked up to the banking hall, and said, who is Alexandra here? I raised my hand and mouthful filled with apology. I'm so sorry, bringing the kids here. I'm a newcomer. Before I could finish all that, she said, shh, I am a grandmother. I know what this means. I know what this is. And you have the courage to bring these kids to a career fair? Alexandria, many people would have had that as an obstacle. But you had the courage to do this. Because of this, I will see you to the next stage of your career. And she was like, bring them into my office. Pushed my stroller, put it, and settle the kids. She was very calm. Settle the kids, gave them their biscuit and the crackers and the juice. Standing up beside the door. That was my interview. Tell me about banking in Nigeria. And we chatted about that. And today, I'm over 9 years in RBC. I've enjoyed tremendously amazing roles. Before I end this story, I'd like to tell you the very last role that I held in RBC. So within 5 years in this amazing organization, who would believe it? This immigrant young girl, I made it to management in 5 years. Not just any kind of management. Thank you. A very special management role. RBC has this great initiative. By the way, that's the only bank that has that initiative, where we have 3 members of the staff members working in the community, being on our client's path, living our purpose to help communities thrive. So not just erecting branches, but having 3 members of the bank be in the community, helping communities where they need us most. So be it in the newcomer segment, on campus, or even in hospitals. So it's called alternate branch format. At that point, we only had a few of those in Ontario. And 2019, the bank decided, let's introduce this initiative down west, precisely Edmonton. So now there's newcomer specialist unit looking for a leader. And I said to myself, what a great opportunity to give back to the community. What a great opportunity to do that, which I didn't have anybody to do it for me as a banker in Montreal, to tell me, you need to write investment funds in Canada, you need to do this, this is what teller job. Nobody. I was like, this is my moment. I'm going to be there. When I went for that interview, I remember saying to my regional vice president at that time, I said, Leanne, I'm here not to help newcomers from a textbook story, but I'm here to help newcomers from my own lived experience. I've walked that path. I know what it looks like. And I got that job. The best job ever, by the way. I had that experience, a beautiful 2 years experience, and then moved to this new role. And that's just to let you know how your challenges could turn out to be opportunities in life that will bounce you to where you can't even imagine. That role led to my new role. So just to wrap it up, a year and a half ago, RBC decided we have specialization on our commercial side of the bank. So we have not-for-profit specialists, healthcare specialists. We don't have that on the small business side of the bank. And we decided, let's start that up. And guess who was tapped on the shoulder? Come, you've done a great job with newcomer. Those are not-for-profits already. You were in the community for 2 years doing great things. Come and be the dedicated relationship manager to start up this unit. So that is how I got into this role, working as relationship manager for not-for-profit organizations, now beyond the newcomer segment, but other not-for-profit organizations. That's what I'm doing till date. So to end the story, I know we don't have much time, I would like to leave you with one thing. There will always be challenges along this path. But what you do with those challenges, that is what matters. Remember, mine was how to take the kids to that interview. I did. This is where I am today. If I didn't get up to do that, I don't know where I would have been. It could be shedding tears at that LRT station, looking at your kids in the cold. It could be riding bicycle, leaving your Toyota Camry back home and, enjoying that bike ride with a bag of rice behind you and watermelon and the one in front, you're going for grocery. It could be all those. But I didn't let that define me. So don't let any of those obstacles, don't let it define who you are. You've taken the risk. You've taken that bold step. Look at yourself as if you're passing through a tunnel. There's always that dark part in the tunnel. But always look at the light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow, thank you so much, Alexandria. That is very inspiring. And thank you for keeping on time. You've kept Elena very happy. The reason I didn't do a lengthy introduction of each speaker is their full bio is in the package here. So just in the interest of time, we're keeping the intros brief. So up next, we have Neelam with Government Services Professional, Government of Canada. Be very happy to hear from you for 15 minutes, if you please.
Thank you. Let me set up my clock so I'm not, exceeding my time limit. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Global Talent Conference 2023. Special thanks to Eric for inviting me as a speaker today. For past 6, 7, 8 years, I was there, just like yourself, connecting with the people, connecting and building the networks. Special thanks to Eric, who was my mentor from the beginning of my life in Edmonton, and for inviting me today in this stage. Special thanks to you all for coming in and joining us today. I strongly believe that you will have a lot of fun, enjoy, learn, connect, and apply whatever you learned from today's conference in your journey, in your career journey, in your professional path. My name is Neelam Paudel, originally from Nepal, a country of Mount Everest, Lord Buddha. Came as a skilled immigrant in 2013 at the age of 36, 37. With a beautiful spouse and a beautiful child of 3.5 years. Started to work, we call it survival job, but I call it transitional job. It was never a survival job for me because I started learning about Canadian life culture, work environment, work ethic. In that transitional job, learned a lot, though it was not in the direction of my career, my education, in my, no relation at all to that job. During my transitional job, what I did is I, built up the networks. I connected with different organizations, professional organizations, and one of them was Eric. I remember reaching out to Doug through LinkedIn. I said, hey, I am new immigrant, I need help. And he connected me with Elena, and she reached out to me instantly. I remember the first meeting with her. It was very inspiring, eye-opening for me. When I was working in the transitional job, taking care of the family, I continued building the relationship. I started some volunteering with Catholic Social Services, of course, connecting with different other organizations, including Boyle Street Community Services. After around a year, there was an opportunity with a nonprofit, and I was hired as an employment counselor, employment coach. Since then, it was around 2015, I worked for that organization for around around 7 years in different progressive roles and with different responsibilities. I was a team lead, and I was in the leadership, in the management team, taking care of a program, operation, management, things like that. Currently, I have been working with the government of government. We are in Alberta, Government of Canada, as a public servant. I'm here today with you to share my personal stories, hoping that it will inspire all of you who are present in person, maybe online. I do have some tips that I used when I was, looking for career opportunities. And my more, focus would be how to discover and unpack the potentials that you have for the leadership position. Sometimes, in the beginning, what we do is when we come oh, I need a job in my profession, right? We start thinking about that. You have a job, then now you start dreaming bigger to see if there are any other opportunities. I am sure that you may be in that beginning stage of finding an entry position, maybe developing your network, building your resume to see what is the best area or sector for you. Maybe you are already in the entry position looking for some opportunity, right, for leadership position, maybe promotion. Hope that my story, my experiences will help you and you learn something from it. As I said, when I had, I arrived in Canada, I did not have any work experience, Canadian work experience, right? But I had some transferable skills, employable skills, right? Like time management, connecting with people. If I meet a person, I love to talk, right? And I had some basic computer skills, right? They are transferable. Doesn't matter you use computer in one part of the world or other part of the world, you use the same computer skills. We call it transferable skills. I was focusing on those. And I was looking at my personality traits. Somebody was talking about doing some assessment, right? Where do I fit? What type of person I am? We talk about your personal values, your vision, mission. And, coming from, teaching and social, background, I used to love, talking to people, helping each other, right? Mentoring, teaching, coaching. As I mentioned, I was hired as an employment coach, employment counselor in the beginning, where I was, very excited in the beginning and very nervous, right? What if I fail there? There is 90 days time frame, remember? Probation period. If something happens, they have a way to let you go without any explanation, right? I was very scared, very nervous. I left my transitional job. I took a risk. No, I want to go to that direction. Doesn't matter. If I fail there, I fail. I will go move forward. I worked hard. I was very passionate. Whatever I did from my heart. I started looking around, reaching out to people and learning from them. And the biggest thing I did, I think, is finding the challenges the program is facing, right? Nobody's perfect. We have shortcomings we need to work on. I looked at those areas where I can pitch my new ideas in, right? Very simple thing, for example, we have been doing paperwork, right? Attendance, remember? When people come in, we do have check-in, check-out. And I offered a service through my, computer skills saying, hey, how about doing it electronically? So at the end of the day, we have, all the numbers calculated by yourself. Small things like that. I started, bringing some energy into the team. I was responsible. I took action. Remember, if you do not take action, you cannot go anywhere. And if you act, you make mistakes. And do not get afraid of those mistakes because we learn from those mistakes, right? Once you go there, you tripped. Second time, you do not make mistake in that area. I learned from that. It was I completed my probation period. I was, enjoying, right? Working there in the team as a team member, as an employment counselor, employment coach. And one day, one of my, the managers come in to me and say, we had an informal conversation. Hey, Neelam, let's have some chat. And he said, I see that, you are having fun, enjoying, you bring some energy, some passion, and you are always involved, right? And I see that you are inspiring other people as well. We did have volunteers, right, coming into our program, practicum students. I was loving teaching them new skills, right? And he said, you always motivate other people. I think that is something that is unique on you. And you are always responsible. You take charge, and you be responsible for what you do. And you bring that relationship building skill. You connect with people very easy. I had huge connection with, when I was doing networking and my, volunteering, I was connecting with different communities, organizations. And I used to bring people in to see how we can work together, right? And he said, okay, this is what something we are looking for in you. He did not tell me that, there was something happening. It was just informal conversation. I didn't know what he was talking about, what he was talking about. Maybe in 1 or 2 weeks after, I was invited for a formal meeting with the senior leadership and my manager. And they offered me a position as a team lead. And I'm like, I was very nervous, right? Oh my goodness, what is happening? And, I was not in the right mindset, right, to accept the position right away. Remember, the leadership for you, at least the background that I have, leadership is someone with the position, right, with a big job title, right? Some authority, someone who can dictate, right? Say, hey, you go there and you do it. Or someone, who can hire and fire. That is what my mentality was telling me based on where I come from. But as the conversation went, they said, hey, listen, your main role is to inspire people, empower, support, and supervise the, staff members. How do I do that? As you have been doing as usual, right? You go there. If you have new staff, go teach them, whatever they are supposed to do, right? And they say, oh, okay, that is something I can do. And you take initiatives, right? If you see something, you go there, talk to staff, and bring new ideas. That is something I have been doing. And one of the rules was establishing relationship with the bigger communities. I love enjoying it, right? But in the back of my mind, I was not prepared, and I was not ready. What if I fail, right? But as the conversation went, I thought I should be okay to take the risk because there is an opportunity and it is knocking my door. And I accept the position. Very, as I said in the beginning, very, uncomfortable, right? You are the leader, the team lead. You are leading other professionals. You are supervising or, supporting other students or, volunteers. I accepted that, went very well. I was loving it. It is no difference, right? You just go there, talk to people, build up the relation, understand, enjoy their success, right? Make them successful. Try multiple times to support them to learn things. Around after that, I was in that position for around a year. The, leadership again comes later on saying, hey, we have another position for you in the management team. Would you consider accepting that position? And I was like, I was prepared that time, right, to accept the role there. But, as I said, I was a little bit hesitant in the beginning. But, when I reflect myself and look at some leadership skills, I realized that leadership is not something with the authority or dictatorship. Leadership is influencing, supporting, helping, and working together, right? This is what I enjoy. And I accepted the position, and I was there for around next 6 years with them in the management position, running the program, operating the program, connecting with them. That is my personal story, but some of the tricks, tips that I used when I was in that position, right? Everybody here has some, potentials. If you look at it, right? Hey, do you enjoy talking to people, right? Yes, I do. Do you take initiatives in the, work field? Yes, I do. Do you come up with the problem and the solutions? Yes, I always do, right? Remember, it doesn't have to come from your professional life. It can be from your day-to-day life as well. You do not focus on only problems. You focus on the solutions, you bring them, you take the initiatives, right? And you provide support, and you enjoy other being successful. right? When I have a new staff, I enjoy it. So my tip to you today, whether you are already in the field or you are trying to seek some opportunities, you already have the potential. So try to do a couple of things. One, highlight your leadership skills. What are your leadership skills like? Right? I can do this and that. And do not forget to include those in your resume, because all the agencies, organizations, corporations, they are looking for leaders. They need leadership. And try to record them. And when you go for the real interview, talk about it, right? Remember, we talk about STAR method. Always include those, achievements that you achieve. I hope that it will help you, right? Whether it is entry position or it is already a position, right? You are looking for to be promoted. Thank you. Thank you so much for having. It is a little bit longer, but thank you for having me. All you, especially Eric, and all of you who listened today, appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you very much. Thank you, Neelam. I think as a career advisor, you're saying a lot of things I like STAR method and networking and inspirational leadership. You're getting a lot of savagely good advice today from several different people. So certainly our final panelist, but also time for Q&A at the end. So Cindy with Edmonton Police Services, we'd love to hear from you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Cindy Q. I am the Director of the Procurement and Contract Services Branch with the Edmonton Police Service. I'd like to thank you first to Eric for the opportunity to be a mentor and to volunteer with you over the past number of years. I want to thank all the speakers that spoke before, as well as my panelists, for your inspiring stories. I especially want to give a shout out to the police, the Edmonton Police Service table. Please stand up and wave. Amy, Nadia, Lori, Uri. We have a booth just back there. We're really, really excited to be here, and please come find us, talk to us. As you can tell, all 5 of us are women. Thank you. So, I joined the Edmonton Police Service as a lawyer in 2019, coming from the city of Edmonton as a procurement lawyer. Within the year, I was given the opportunity to lead the reorganization and a transformative change initiative to establish a centralized procurement function that was responsible and is responsible for the annual procurement of approximately $60 million, the administration of contract commitments for approximately $90 million, the management of EPS partnership and interagency agreements, and the delivery of specialized solicitor services. I represent a growing number of women in leadership within the organization, and many of us are visible minority. Before this role, and for over a decade, I worked for various private and public clients providing legal expertise and services in the area of infrastructure procurement, Aboriginal modern land claims, commercial contract negotiation, environmental assessment, and proposed mining projects in northern Canada. I believe in the importance of civic duties and meaningful actions. When serving the communities in which I live, to me, there's no role beneath and no role above me. I've volunteered with food banks. I've served hot meals in community kitchens. I've led the Nunavut Law Foundation to create the first portable library in remote communities. I've headed the first national Aboriginal conference in Nunavut with national chiefs, politicians, academics, and professionals. I've mentored new lawyers, professional immigrants, and many others. I've served on boards, agencies, and associations to advance Aboriginal law, public safety, and women in leadership. I have had the privilege to work, learn, and travel in many parts of the world. I was born in Vietnam, and my family immigrated to Canada when I was 10. I grew up in Toronto. I was very lucky and privileged to be accepted in a very prestigious business school in university, and during which I took the opportunity to study in France, travel Europe. After graduating university, I participated in a management and traineeship program with an international marketing company in Bucharest, Romania. Now, here's the deal that I had to have with my parents before they let me go to Bucharest, Romania. They said, law school, engineering, or doctor. And I said, but I just got my business degree. Not good enough. So this was the deal that I had with my parents. I would put in my application for law school, then I can pack up and travel to Bucharest, Romania. But 8 months into my internship, my one-year internship, I got a call from my dad. And he said, you got accepted to law school at the University of Faculty. I said, shit, I only applied for 2. So I returned to Canada. I studied law. Then I got a job practicing commercial litigation in Toronto. But after about 2 years, I accepted a position to work for the government of Nunavut as a lawyer in the Constitutional Legal Division. So I moved again. This time, I couldn't come up with a deal. I said to my parents, I'll go for about 2 years, and I promise you I'll come back. I worked and lived in Iqaluit, Nunavut for 5 years before moving to Edmonton, Alberta. In Edmonton, I worked for a private law firm and then as a procurement lawyer for the city of Edmonton. In 2019, as I mentioned earlier, I was recruited to join the Edmonton Police Service on a 2-year secondment to provide procurement expertise. After a year, the chief called me in and said, fix procurement. I was then decided to stay, and I was provided with the opportunity to envision, develop, and lead a new branch to deliver professional procurement and contract services for EPS. I'm going to stop here for a minute because I just gave you almost like a bio point form. This is what we do in the legal profession. But it wasn't until recently, given this opportunity by Eric to come here and speak before you, that I did a lot of thinking. I took a lot of step back, thinking through my life decisions, my education, my jobs, and all the major moves that I've taken. And to me, all of these things that I've done have always seemed like they just fell into place on their own accord. But when I really, really reflected on them, about my journey as an immigrant leader and the challenges that I have faced and the successes that I've built, I started to reflect carefully, much more carefully, about my journey. And when I remarked on what appeared to be randomness of this different transition and phases of my life, I had to stop and honestly reminded myself that I had put a lot of work into each and every step, each and every decision. And the struggle through each decision, the struggle through each transition, the struggle of each physical move, I faced it, I lived it. And I came to realize that the significant life changes are the result of the choices that we made and pursue, but also the sacrifices that we have to make. I realized that when I talk about my journey, I didn't talk about how hard I studied and worked every step of those way. I didn't recount the time that I cried alone when I first arrived to Bucharest, Romania, by myself. And the time that I had to sleep on the floor for weeks because I couldn't find an apartment in Bucharest, Romania, or a roommate so that I can afford an apartment. And I also disregarded how I hated my first apartment in Iqaluit because my neighbor smoked and I could smell everything. And it also slipped my mind that for the first 8 months in my new role as a director in EPS, having to build a new team, having to create a vision and put it into reality and implement it, and then convince the organization that I'm for real, that I worked 12, maybe 14 hours a day, that I often forgot to eat lunch, and that I took my husband for granted because I would come home too tired to even speak, and I would fall asleep on the couch. But despite these difficulties and challenges, I do not regret the decisions that I've made. On the contrary, I am thankful for the opportunities represented to me along the way, and I'm proud of myself for accepting them and enduring the inevitable hardship that they brought. How did I muddle through this? How did I get here? I'd like to share with you some of my reflection. What helped me through the challenges, got me up every time I fell, and gave me the foundation to move forward are the values that I learned from my parents who immigrated to Canada through their own experience as immigrants. But I also had to ask myself the tough question each and every time I had an opportunity represented to me. Because those decisions that I made had an impact on me and had an impact on the people around me. And finally, I recognize that I am willing to take the moments of solitude for myself and let that inner voice that give me the honest reflection of the choices that I'm about to make without sugar, rose-colored rainbows, or all the great things that I've been trying to convince myself with. These values that I want to share with you are those of courage, honesty, and conviction. Let me tell you a little bit about my parents. My family of 4, mom, dad, me at 10, and my younger brother, who was 5 at the time, left everything in Vietnam and moved to Canada in June 1991. We were smart. We came in summertime. Before coming to Canada, my dad had a career as a civil engineer working for the ministry responsible for public works and infrastructure. He has to be proud of me. I'm still doing procurement, right? Having graduated top of his class, he was at the prime of his career. My mom, she was a businesswoman, an entrepreneur. With nothing and 2 kids, she started a boutique clothes-making business and expanded it exponentially. She loved the fashion. She taught fashion. She made fashion. She sold fashion. I love her clothes. Whenever I get the opportunity to borrow clothes from her closet, I always look my best. But why did my parents leave all of that behind and come to Canada? The story will vary in details depending on who you ask and depending on when. My mom often said that the decision to leave everything behind and come to Canada was because, it was for the kids, for their brighter future, for the freedom and the right to hope for something more. My dad was more practical. He said, your mom's family was all here in Canada. My grandmother, my uncles, my aunts, they all left after the Vietnam War. So mom wanted to come here and be with her family. So when my family landed in Toronto Pearson Airport, we were lucky that we have family here, but we had 4 containers of heavy knitted sweaters and hats and mitts of various rainbow colors, and not much else. My mom would later tell us that between my parents, they had about $75 US. That's all they had in their pockets. Why did I say this? Why did I share this story with you? Perhaps it's because I am inspired and in awe with the sheer audacity of immigrants who force a path forward for themselves and their children with very little. And they know that material things that they have are immaterial for their success in the new country. Their courage, their belief, their confidence in their own abilities, but more importantly, the conviction of wanting, of hoping, of getting something better can be more powerful than the material things that they have. So all decision choices that result in significant changes in our lives can have different motivations. What is important is taking the courage that we have to make the journey ahead and the conviction to make it work. So settling in Toronto, obviously we were very lucky. We have my mom's family there. My parents found their first job with a not-for-profit organization, the Scott Mission. They provided meals, groceries, and clothes for the homeless and the poor in the inner city Toronto. Dad did various odd-ends job, that whatever needed fixing. This is from civil engineer. Mom got a job assisting, administrative assistant, doing various clerk-like work. Luckily, my brother and I got accepted into an elementary junior high school just in the back of Scott Mission. So after school, my brother and I would come to Scott Mission to help my parents. We served hot meals, we bagged groceries for clients, and we sorted out mountains of clothes. In those early years, we also lived in a 2-bedroom apartment on top of a Chinese restaurant, and later in subsidized housing. We didn't own a car. We didn't shop for clothes because my parents could take home donations. And we treated ourselves to McDonald's on various special occasions, my birthday. We were poor, but we had a lot of laughter. And I don't remember that we lacked for anything. Why is this important? My family experience and my recollection of those early days helped ground me in the importance of public service, giving back to the communities and helping those with less, because there are always those with less. Those early days also reminded me that I was poor once, but my family was colorblind. We did not identify and define ourselves by our ethnicity, our gender, our class, or any other people's expectation of us. These are important values, and they are my unshakable foundation. Growing up, I didn't know any lawyers. We had no networks. We weren't involved, engaged. We were new immigrants. I had no plan to go to business school or law school. I didn't know I wanted to travel, but I knew I wanted to make a difference. And while I wasn't sure how, I wasn't afraid to try new things. When doors open for me in life, I walked through them. When I graduated from law school, I found a position in a litigation law firm, as I mentioned to you. And when I saw an advertisement in Iqaluit, Nunavut, miles away from the bustling downtown Toronto, I wanted the opportunity to contribute to building Canada, building our nation. My experience in Canada's most northern territory opened my eyes to the challenges and adversity faced by our Indigenous people, in particular the Inuit people. In the 5 years that I worked and lived and traveled through this northern part of our territory, I was profoundly grateful for the opportunity to learn this important part of our nation's culture, the traditional lands of the Inuit people, and the challenges of balancing economic development with environmental impact. I learned a lot, and I grew to appreciate the complexity, practical reality, and critical needs for the roles and responsibility of public institutions to deliver lawmaking, law enforcement, the protection of public safety, sound policies and programs, and public service. So when we often ask ourselves, is this the right job for us? How do we know if we should stay or go or look elsewhere? My way of approaching has always been find the solitude. Allow yourself to listen to that voice within you. That is when your courage and honesty will help strengthen your conviction to move forward, find that door, and step through it. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. I'm just doing a time check here, and I realize we're very close to our lunch. So maybe Doug or Ellen, where are you? If you want to give me a thumbs up, if we can cut into your lunch hour a little bit for questions, if that's okay. If not, then okay. Yeah, we'll take a couple questions. Please go to the mic. Try to keep your introduction brief, and maybe just one question per person, just so we get at least a few in. There is the microphone there, so you don't have to get up and come to the podium.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for these conferences. Thank you for the panelists. That was amazing. And thank you, Eric, for putting this together. So my name is Alejandra. I work for Braden Center. And I have a question that it's for you guys, also for the panelists that were before, but also for the people who work for different resources here. One of the things that I have noticed that the panelists had said in the morning, when the Minister of Trade, Immigration, and Multiculturalism, Mrs. Regin, and then media, what they were said is that they didn't know about the resources that were available for people when they came here, which in contrast with what I've noticed about you guys is that you somehow knew what were the resources that were available for you. And you made your way, or you navigated in them too. My question is, what do we do so newcomers or immigrants know about us? We work in employment training in my company and in my agency, and one of our programs work with internationally educated professionals. Something that I've noticed when they come here and they talk to us, career coaches or employment developers, is that many of them come by word of mouth, right, by their friends or, or colleagues or family, but not because they heard when they landed here about us or many others like us, like the Mennonite, like Eric, like many others. What do we do so that they know? I am an immigrant myself. I immigrated to this country 6 years ago for love. And I didn't know. I had no idea that I have access to these resources. If I had known, my life would have been so much easier at least. I had maybe a support system. Maybe I would, not stumble so much to become what I've become now. What do we do so that people know and they don't come to this country with all of their hopes, all of their dreams, all of their experience, and their titles and profession, and they just not just like like go against the wall. What do we do? How do we do that? That would be my question. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, can you hear me? All right, thanks. Thank you for that great question. This answer will go in two folds, both for you as an agency and both for us as the immigrants. So, and in answering that, I'll also say kudos to RBC, not because I'm from RBC, but that is why RBC many years ago decided it's not enough to continue to build branches everywhere. Let us build a unit that will cater for the needs of the community, be on the client's path. That was why we created this great initiative called RBC Newcomer Specialist Unit, where you're going to chat with them later on. Folake is the manager on that desk. So that is what I'm encouraging organizations to do. So find a way to come out from a formal way of doing things. Let's think outside the box. So that initiative also, you have it in universities. So we have RBC on campus. You don't need to bank with RBC, by the way, to get access to these amazing individuals. So they help newcomers understand banking in Canada, what is finance in Canada. The ones on campus, you have them in U of A, in McEwen. You walk up there, international students, they get ideas. How can I navigate the system? We have few of those also on RBC on the hospital. So in the hospital, dying bed, and a man is looking for financial advice. There's somebody by the corner. So that is one way about it. Another way is, I always tell people, it's so important to have mentors, sponsors by your corner. God bless her soul. Jade Boxrood, it's amazing. She's here in the room. She introduced the keynote speaker. Jade, please wave. Jade is my mentor for life. And having someone like her in your corner. So it's important. Reach out for, when you hear mentors, people who use their own story to help you, who will guide you, who have experienced what you are experiencing, and they will walk you through it. So as a newcomer, as an immigrant, never feel alone. Build that. I love LinkedIn. Build your profile on LinkedIn. So you as the agency, learn how to post things that would motivate people, that will inspire people. Put up that post out there. That newcomer will read it and say, oh, there is a group like this. They do things like this. Then they look out for you. Then you, on the other side of as an immigrant, learn how to build that great LinkedIn profile so that you can connect with people. Like he said, he connected with Doug, the ED Eric. Don't be afraid to connect. Thank you.
I think we're ready for lunch.
Okay, my apologies. You know what? Here's the thing. Edmonton Police Service booth right there. Cindy, I assume you might be available for questions. Neelam, I don't think you have a booth today, but you'll be hanging around and we can ask you questions. And of course, Alexandria, you have your great RBC booth right beside us. So please do approach. Again, I see in the back of this book, you make yourself 10 connections today. How many are you at? Because the common thing I'm hearing from everyone is it all starts with relationships and networking, among other things. But anyways, I won't stand between you and your lunch any further. Thank you so much, panel, inspiring great stories. But everyone, do feel free to have your lunch. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And now that I'm conveniently wet, I wanted to just say we are ready for lunch. Thank you, speakers, for totally the stories. I mean, I was just mentioning to other people at the back, it's like the stories I never get tired of. And thank you for sharing those stories. They are totally inspirational and lived experience. And there's nothing better than hearing lived experience. And that gives you that sense of hope for what we can potentially do in our lives. So thank you for sharing. I think a lot of people will take away some great epiphanies for over lunch and hopefully have some great discussions. Thanks again for committing to the panel.